A story about Sadiq, the phone repairer from Kano. In the Sabangari market of Kano, between a woman who sold groundnut oil in used plastic bottles and an old man who repaired shoes with thread so thin it looked like a dare, there was a small wooden kiosk. The sign above it read Sadiq Mobile, we fix all phones. God willing. The God willing part was not decoration. It was a genuine addendum, because Sadiq had once fixed a Samsung that had been run over by a motorcycle, and even he wasn't sure what exactly had brought that phone back to life. Sadiq was 28 years old. He was not a tall man, not a particularly handsome man, though the girls in the market said his eyes were the kind that listened even when his mouth was closed. He wore the same 3 shirts in rotation: a white kaftan for Fridays, a blue polo for Mondays through Wednesdays, and an old Arsenal jersey that had seen too many Harmattan seasons. He woke up every morning at 5:15. He would pray, then he would boil water for Nescafe. Then he would take 3 buses to reach the market because he lived in a rented one-room in Naibawa, a neighborhood where the walls were thin enough to hear your neighbor's arguments in full cinematic detail. His tools were few: a screwdriver set, a heat gun with a loose wire he had repaired himself, a magnifying glass, and a patience so deep it seemed geological. Customers came to him because he was honest. And in Kano, in that market, in that economy, honest was rare enough to be remarkable. He charged what the job was worth, not what the customer's desperation could afford. When a woman brought him her son's phone, the boy had dropped it in a bucket of water trying to take a selfie. Sadiq fixed it in 40 minutes and charged her 800 naira. His friend Zubair, who ran a bigger shop 3 stalls away, would have charged 3,000 and kept the working parts. Sadiq and Zubair had been friends since secondary school. Zubair was the kind of friend who called every day, who remembered your birthday without Facebook, who would sit with you at your kiosk during slow afternoons, eating suya, and complaining about politicians with the theatrical authority of someone who had personally met them. He was loud and generous and funny. He was Sadiq's person. And then there was Sadiq's family. His mother, Hajiya Ramatu, lived in the old family house in Gwale, a quiet woman who had raised 4 children after their father passed, who knew how to make a pot of mayan kaka last 3 days, who called Sadiq every Sunday and asked the same question: Yara Kasawansi, how is business? And Sadiq would always say, Alhamdulillah, Mama, we are managing, because managing was true, and managing was enough, or at least, it had been. It was a Thursday in March when the letter came. Sadiq almost didn't notice it. It was sandwiched between a flyer for a church crusade and a bill from PHCN that was laughably high for a neighborhood that had electricity 3 days a week, but the envelope was cream-colored and official-looking. It had a lawyer's letterhead: Chambers of Alhaji Babatunde and Associates, Lagos. He read it in his kiosk. While a customer waited for a screen replacement, he read it again. Then he sat very still for a long time. His uncle Malam Dinladi, his father's younger brother, the one who had moved to Lagos in the 80s and disappeared into that city's anonymity, had died in January. Sadiq had not known him well, a man of brief visits and brief conversations, a man who smelled of mentholatum and always gave the children 200 naira on Eid, which, in those years, had felt like a fortune. Malam Dinladi had never married, never had children, and now, with careful legal language, the letter told Sadiq that Malam Dinladi had left behind a house in Suralere already sold before the death and a fixed deposit account. The combined inheritance, after taxes and legal fees, came to 4,300,000 naira. Sadiq read the figure 3 times, then he put the letter in his pocket, took a long breath, and continued replacing the customer's screen. His hands did not shake. He was proud of that later. He did not tell anyone, not that first night, not the second. He sat in his room in Naibawa and stared at the ceiling and thought about what 4 million naira meant. It meant he could buy a real shop, not a kiosk, a proper place with a generator and a glass display case and an air conditioner that actually cooled. It meant he could pay off his mother's debt at the cooperative. It meant he could rest, just for a moment, just breathe without calculating. But something else sat in his chest alongside the relief, something quieter and harder to name. He thought of Zubair. How last month, when Sadiq had been short on rent, Zubair had been unavailable, his phone going to voicemail for 3 days, and when he finally called back, he'd said, Wallahi, my hand is not there right now, brother. You know how it is. Sadiq had managed. He always managed, but he remembered the feeling. The way a closed door sounds different when it belongs to someone who was supposed to leave it open for you. He thought of his cousin Bashir, who only visited during Salah and spent those visits listing things he needed: a loan here, a connection there, a favor that was always disguised as a casual mention. He thought of his aunties who had told his mother that Sadiq was wasting his life fixing phones, that he should have studied harder, that the family name deserved better. And now, here he was, with 4 million naira in a bank account he hadn't activated yet. He thought, who would these people be if they knew? And then the other thought, the darker one, who are they right now when they don't? That was when the decision formed. Not dramatically, not like a plan, more like a question he decided to let breathe. He would wait, he would watch, he would continue as normal. He would not touch the money, he would not tell a soul. He would see. Monday morning, same buses, same Nescafe, same Arsenal jersey. The market received him without ceremony, as it always did. He opened the kiosk, arranged his tools, waited. The first test came without him engineering it. Zubair strolled in at 11 with a disposable cup of kunu and sat on the stool he always claimed like it was property. Brother, I have a business idea, Zubair began. This was how most of their conversations started these days. The idea was a phone accessories distribution business. Zubair had a contact in Guangzhou, not directly, but his cousin had a friend who had a contact. The investment needed was 200,000 naira. The returns, Zubair explained with the confidence of a man who had never run a distribution business, would be significant. I need a partner, Zubair said. Someone I trust. Sadiq looked at his friend. The same face he had known for 15 years. The same eyes that had once sat with him at his father's funeral and said nothing, just sat there, which had been exactly the right thing. Zubair, Sadiq said, you know my situation. I'm barely making 60,000 a month. Zubair's face did something complicated. It didn't fall, not exactly, but something shifted behind his eyes. A small recalibration. Ah, okay, no problem. I understand, brother. He finished his kunu. He stayed another 20 minutes talking about football, but it was different. Sadiq felt it the way you feel a change in temperature, not through sight, but through skin. He went home to Gwail on a Friday. His mother was cooking. The smell of taushi reached him before he reached the gate. Some things were reliable in this world. Hajia Ramata was glad to see him. She touched his face the way mothers do, checking for weight loss, for stress, for signs of hunger she could remedy. His cousin Bashir was there. So was his auntie Farida, who had an opinion about everything and delivered each one like breaking news. Over lunch, the conversation moved the way family conversations move, from health to money to other people's business to money again. Auntie Farida mentioned that brother Usman's son had just gotten a government job. Now that boy has a future, she said, stirring her soup. Not everyone can say the same. Nobody looked at Sadiq directly. They didn't need to. Later, Bashir cornered him near the outdoor tap. I heard from Mama that you're doing well with the phone business. Managing, Sadiq said. Good, good. A pause. Because I have something I want to show you. There's land near Karfi. Very cheap right now. If we act fast, I don't have money for land, Bashir. His cousin's face registered the information with a practiced neutrality. Okay, maybe next time. He went back inside to help his mother clear the dishes. She asked him if he was eating enough. He said yes. She said he looked thin. He said the harmattan was deceiving. She laughed. He loved her laugh. He almost told her. Right there, over the wet plates, with the afternoon light coming through the curtain. Almost. But he thought, what changes if I tell her? And the deeper question, what stays the same? He kept quiet. Helped her finish the dishes. Stayed for Maghrib. Then took the bus home. 2 months after the letter, Sadiq made a calculated move. He told Zubair casually, over phone, that his kiosk had been broken into, that tools had been stolen, that he was behind on rent and considering shutting down temporarily. None of this was true. He said it and felt something cold move through him. Not guilt exactly, more like a kind of grief, that he had arrived at a place where he needed to test a friend with a lie. Zubair's response was swift. Ah, brother, Nagod. I would help, but you know this month has been tight. My mother's hospital bill. His mother had been fine the last time, Sadiq asked. And the rent here in Nasarawa is not smiling at all. But make do, Allah will provide for you. Sadiq said thank you. Said it was fine. Said he would manage. He sat in his kiosk after the call, the one that was not broken into, surrounded by tools that had not been stolen, and stared at a cracked iPhone screen waiting for repair. He fixed it slowly, methodically. When the customer came back, Sadiq charged him less than the agreed price. The customer looked surprised. Why, it was simpler than I thought, Sadiq said. He didn't know why he did that, but he needed to give something to someone that day, even if it was just 800 naira off a repair bill. March became April. April stretched into May. Sadiq stopped calling Zubair first. He wanted to see how long the silence would last. 11 days. On the 12th day, Zubair called, not to check on him, but because his own phone had developed a charging port issue and he wanted Sadiq to fix it for free, as friends do. Sadiq fixed it. He didn't charge him. He sat there and watched his friend laugh about something on TikTok and felt the distance between them like a physical space neither of them was acknowledging. After Zubair left, a woman came to the kiosk with a phone so damaged it looked like it had been used to fight someone. While he worked on it, she talked. She was a trader. She was tired. Her husband had been sick. Her children needed school fees. She talked and Sadiq listened. And she said something, almost to herself, almost not meaning for him to hear. The people who should be tired with you are always tired for themselves. She said it in Hausa and it landed quietly, the way true things often do. In June, Sadiq went to Lagos. He told no one. Told Zubair he was visiting a supplier. Told his mother he had a small work trip. He met the lawyers in their office on Lagos Island. Signed the documents. Got the account details transferred. Sat in a conference room that smelled of leather and old money and completed, in 2 hours, what months of ordinary work could not have done in years. Afterward, he walked to the marina and stood there watching the lagoon. He was now, technically, a man of means. Nothing felt different. The sun was the same sun. The heat was the same Kano transplanted to Lagos heat. The ache in his lower back from the wooden stool in the kiosk was the same ache it had always been. He bought a meat pie from a hawker and ate it standing up, watching a boat cut across the brown water. He thought about what he had expected to feel. He thought about his father, who had died when Sadiq was 16, who had left behind nothing but a name people respected and a son who had inherited his eyes and his patience. He thought about the money sitting in an account, a number in a system, intangible, enormous, irrelevant to the hunger in his stomach right now or the grief that had been quietly composting in his chest for months. He flew back to Kano that evening. He did not buy anything at the airport. He did not change anything about his life. He went home, prayed Isha, and slept. The real cost of the experiment was not what he had expected. He had expected revelation, clarity, the satisfying click of knowing who people truly were. What he got instead was a long, slow erosion, because once you've watched someone not show up, you can't unknow it. Zubair came by the kiosk one afternoon in July with a new shirt and a new energy. He had met an investor, a real one this time, for his distribution idea. He'd found another partner. "I thought of you," Zubair said. And Sadiq believed he meant it. "But since things were hard for you, it's fine," Sadiq said. And it was fine. It wasn't betrayal. Zubair hadn't done anything wrong, technically. He had simply revealed himself, his natural gravitational pull toward ease and convenience, the way water finds the lowest path. But what hurt was not the action. It was the portrait that was now complete, that he now had to live with. He started noticing it everywhere. The auntie who called him when she needed something. The cousin who appeared during celebration seasons. The customers who bargained aggressively but complained loudly when he wasn't available. The people for whom he was useful but not irreplaceable. It was not bitterness exactly. It was more like a clearing. Like Harmattan had come through and stripped the trees bare, and what was left was true, leafless, accurate, undeniable. He went to Friday Jummah and listened to the Imam speak about sincerity, about the people who are with you only in the shade and leave when the sun is direct. He listened and thought, I have been conducting a test. But who is being tested? His mother called on a Sunday in August. Same as always. Yaya Kasawansi, alhamdulillah, mama. We are managing. Then she said something she had never said before. Perhaps she had been thinking it for months. Sadiq, you are too alone. I worry about you. Not because of money. Not because of what people say. I worry because I see you becoming quiet. Like your father got quiet. Before the end, he stopped telling me things. I don't want that for you. He held the phone and felt his chest tighten. I'm okay, mama. Are you? Because okaying is not the same as okay. He almost told her. He assembled the words, opened his mouth, but something stopped him. Not calculation, not strategy, just fear. Fear that even with her, even with the one person whose love he had never genuinely doubted, the knowledge of money would change the texture of things. Her prayers, her worry, the way she'd say his name, he couldn't bear to risk even that, so he said, I'll come next Friday, mama. I'll bring the suya you like. She said, good. Come and eat properly for once. He hung up and sat in the dark for a while. September brought a small crisis. Hamza, a younger boy, barely 23, who worked a nearby snack stall and sometimes helped Sadiq carry equipment, had an accident. A commercial motorcycle clipped him on the main road. His leg was fractured. The hospital wanted 40,000 naira before they would set the bone. His family was from the village. They didn't have it. Hamza lay in the ward with a leg that needed fixing and a family that was calling and coming but coming empty-handed. Sadiq visited on a Tuesday. He saw the boy lying there, trying to look unbothered, the way young men do when they are frightened and have no framework for showing it. He went to the hospital cashier. He paid. He didn't tell Hamza where the money came from. He told the cashier it was from a community contribution. He told Hamza that the Market Association had organized support. Hamza cried. He was 23 and his leg hurt and someone had paid his bill, and he cried the way young men cry when they have been trying very hard not to. Sadiq went home that evening and felt, for the first time since the letter arrived, something that was not loneliness. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't resolution. It was just a brief warmth, like the Nescafe in the morning, temporary but real. October. Sadiq was at the kiosk on a slow afternoon when Zubair came by. They sat together, ate suya, complained about Nipa, argued about whether Man City was truly a great club or just a rich club, which Zubair insisted were the same thing and Sadiq insisted were completely different. It was almost like before. Almost. Sadiq looked at his friend, this man he had known for 15 years, this man who had sat with him at his father's grave and not said anything and gotten it exactly right, this man who had also not answered his phone when the rent was short and felt something complicated and complete. He loved him. He was also clear-eyed about him. Both things were true. He had expected the test to produce a verdict, a clean answer. This person is good. This person is bad. What it had produced instead was a more accurate map, not of who was good or bad, but of who was capable of what, under what conditions, for what reasons, and what that meant for how much of yourself you could safely hand over. He looked at the suya sticks and thought about the money. 4,300,000 naira, sitting in an account he had not touched. Not one naira spent except for Hamza's hospital bill. He had not bought a new shop, had not told his mother, had not confronted Zubair, had not given Bashir the land money, had not sent Auntie Farida a single message about his improved circumstances. He had fixed phones. He had ridden the same 3 buses. He had worn the Arsenal jersey until it developed a small tear at the shoulder. And what had the money actually changed? Not the kiosk, not the jersey, not the buses, just the inside of him. The way you see a room differently once you know where all the shadows fall. November brought cooler air to Kano. The harmattan was beginning, that dry wind from the Sahara that coats everything in fine red dust and makes your lips crack and your skin beg for shea butter. Sadiq opened the kiosk at 8. He arranged his tools. He made his Nescafe. A man came in with a techno phone. The speaker had stopped working. Simple job. 15 minutes. While he worked, the man talked. He was a civil servant. He was tired. His children needed school fees. His boss was corrupt. Nigeria was hard. Sadiq listened with the kind of attention that had always been his natural way. The listening that didn't rush to respond or advise or fix, just received. The man looked at him after a while and said, "Brother, you are a patient person. The young people these days, they don't listen like that." Sadiq smiled. "My father was like that," he said. "It's the only thing I got from him." He finished the repair. He charged the men fare. The men left. The market moved around Sadiq the way it always did. Noise and negotiation and the smell of groundnut oil and the sound of generators running and stopping and running again. He sat on his stool. The account existed. The money existed. He had not decided what to do with it. He had not decided to share it or keep it or spend it or give it away. He had only decided one thing. He would not let the knowledge of it make him cruel. Not toward Zubair, who was simply a man with the limitations of a man. Not toward Bashir, who wanted things and asked for them in the only language he knew. Not toward the aunties and the cousins and the world arranged around survival. He would not let it make him soft either. Not the soft that mistakes distance for peace, or silence for contentment. He would simply carry it, the way you carry a thing you're not sure yet what to do with. Carefully, quietly, with open hands. He picked up the next phone from the repair queue. The sun moved across the market ceiling. Outside, Kano continued enormous and ordinary and completely indifferent to the amount of money a phone repairer kept in an account he never opened. A woman passed the kiosk carrying a basin of tomatoes on her head. A child ran past chasing another child. A generator somewhere coughed, died, coughed again, and decided to live. Sadiq worked. The afternoon opened wide around him. He had not become rich. He had simply become more certain, about very little, but the little things with great precision.